Think about how you might recover from or what you may have to do to start again after having lost a business, you've been bankrupt, your wife passed away from cancer, and your family is nearly falling apart because of the various things that are happening in your life. How do you deal with that? How can you recover from and move on to a more successful life? Listen, and you'll learn how Jeff Pierce was able to do this. Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Jeff Pierce, who explains to us the various life encounters he has had that for many people maybe would have brought them down to the point of despair, but through a very significant event in Jeff's life, he was able to get inspired to make a major turnaround in his life after experiencing some very devastating life consequences that for some may have been reason to just give up. But rather than do that, Jeff was inspired to become what he is today. Marty, what are some takeaways we can learn from Jeff?
Ron, as you said, Jeff has gone through a lot of things that would take people down, but I hope I get this right. I think his therapist said to him when he walked in the door one day, your situation will be your best blessing. He said Jeff took it and grew through his situations and became a person that can share his trials and sufferings and become better and a positive person. A great podcast.
It is a great story of recovering from and becoming the best we were meant to be. Let's listen and learn together. Jeff, it is good to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very intrigued with your life experiences, and there are multiple, as I understand, and probably a lot more than I have not heard about yet. But very briefly, from my understanding, you've experienced divorce, you've experienced bankruptcy, you've experienced the death of a wife due to cancer. There are probably other things you have experienced in life that for some people might cause us to wonder, I don't know what more I can do. I'm not suggesting suicidal or anything like that. But I am suggesting that some people are wondering, man, I tell you what, I've got so much happening in my life. I don't know where to turn next. I don't know what to do. I'm at a point where I'm in a total disarray. I don't know that you've experienced anything like that, Jeff, but I think there are some of our listeners who might say they either have or they're not too far from that. Welcome aboard, Jeff. Great to have you with us.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here and appreciate this opportunity to share some insights that I've learned. I certainly have been through my share of adversity, just like everybody else has. What I share, somebody's probably going to resonate to some degree. I have learned over 68 years on this planet that everything that has been put before us has been given to us for a reason, and it's for us to grow to get to the next level. There's always going to be more adversity. And Napoleon Hill talks about the 6 fears in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And those fears are poverty, which I've been through. I faced 2 bankruptcies, criticism. I've had plenty of criticism. I was bullied all through school, elementary school, and even into high school. Ill health. At 28, I had a polyp that was removed that was within 10 days to 2 weeks of being cancerous. Loss of a loved one. Not only did I have my experience with a close call with colon cancer, but I have dealt with 2 grandparents and my father who all had colon cancer. And then my wife battled the disease for 4.5 years. So not only did I have to deal with her ill health, but knowing the loss of a loved one was coming, having seen and lived through colon cancer with my grandparents and my father. And of course, the 2 other that fall in that same realm, dealing with cancer and dealing with especially my wife's cancer in her mid-60s, was old age and death. So all those fears that Napoleon Hill talks about are all fears that we face in different timelines of our life. But they're all there for learning experiences. Through my trainings in getting my mental performance certification, I have learned that no matter whether you're going through training for a sport, building a business, going through any kind of adversity, you have to embrace the journey. But through my wife's cancer, the biggest learning experience I got was enjoy every moment. We never know when it could be our last moment.
Let me interject here, Jeff. In the context of mental performance and everything happens for a reason, would you categorize or describe yourself as being a naturally resilient person? And I'm just thinking of resilience, that no matter what happens to you, you will recover, bounce back, whatever thought a person puts to the term resilience.
Yeah, I had to learn at a very young age that I had to fight through the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, naturally being bullied, having issues with my own parents. Unfortunately, my father went through some mental illness and picked up and left. So I felt the loss of a loved one when I was maybe 8, 9 years old when he picked up and left. Okay, so that was a dramatic experience for me. And yet, when he returned, got his head back on straight and everything, it was within a year, 2 years, I find myself getting whipped by a bullwhip. So yeah, I had to learn that I had to stand up and fight through a lot of adversity and overcome those things. Unfortunately, as we go through adversity, those are memories that are built into our subconscious mind. Okay. And they bring up bad habits and a bad belief system of what you're capable of.
And right there, Jeff, I think is a great topic to discuss. As you're describing your background, I'm thinking, I'm going to ask you to think back 60 or so years. And did you feel at the time you were a social outcast? Were you just reserved? Were you a type loner? Any number of these type descriptors. And then as you have progressed through years, you're talking about the subconscious. Many of us have past experiences lodged in our subconscious such that any trigger points, activation points, whatever, could trigger events from the past, which could have a very negative impact. But I guess what I'm leading up to, Jeff, in the context of mental performance, have you overcome all of that, or do you just know how to manage any negative thoughts? And I'm not even sure how to phrase my question.
Yeah, I would say you hit the nail on the head when you said manage. There are still times, building a new coaching business and taking what I've done for years as a passion to now build a business and a career of helping others through adversity and overcoming, helping guys build a construction business, because that's the industry I was in for 44 years. It's understanding how you have to assess those feelings and beliefs, but don't get stuck into it. Okay. With my mental performance certification through Ben Newman, Ben talks about it this way: it's standards over feelings. Okay. Think about it. We have a thought which creates a feeling. Okay. Subconsciously, in split seconds, it brings up a past experience that relates to those thoughts and feelings. And that is going to have some impact based on what your belief system is. Can you walk through that challenge and adversity? Okay. Or are you going to be controlled by your feelings? Okay. And the feelings are going to be coming from your belief system. Okay. So you have to go from your belief system and your feelings to living through to your standards of where you want your life to go and what kind of life you want to live.
Now, right there's a very good point to pursue a little bit further. I have heard a person say, my feelings are never wrong. And let me approach that from the context that, did you at any point feel you had no value, no worth, anything like that? And if yes to that, how do you overcome that to something positive without being arrogant?
That's a good question. It has taken me many years to build upon feeling worthy. And now that I'm older and have been doing mentoring and coaching for years, there's times that I get the imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? But what's interesting is because I've been around high achievers so much, especially the last 15 years, I hear those same comments from multimillionaires and near billionaires. They at times go through that same thing with imposter syndrome. A gentleman by the name of Ed Millett, one of the top 5 mental performance or coaches in the country, one of the top speakers, not just in the country, but in the world right now. I have heard Ed say it multiple times. He fights imposter syndrome every time he gets done with a podcast or gets off the stage. It doesn't matter if he's speaking on a podcast in a one-to-one conversation like we're having, or if he's speaking to thousands and thousands of people. He still has that question looming in his subconscious, coming forward and say, did I do it and say enough to help one person? So we will all have a feeling of times where we're not worthy. However, if you're a religious person, we were brought on this earth for a reason. There's a greater purpose we have to serve. Okay. And this is where I've gone through basically 3 different time frames in my life where I've had to change my outlook of where my destination was going. Okay. Like I said, for years I got bullied and all, didn't feel love from my parents. And I was fortunate enough when my mother remarried, my stepdad gave me and funded a new home construction business. However, due to IBM moving out of our community, taking 6,500 jobs out of a community with only roughly 45,000 people working, it killed the economy, killed the new home building business. I, along with others, went bankrupt, okay, through that experience. I fought that bankruptcy for almost 2 years, not willing to do it. And my wife finally said this to me, Jeff, it's either you continue this, fight this business and fight financial hurdles, or I'm going to the attorney.
I think what I'm hearing you say, Jeff, and it's implicit, but I'm processing what you're saying is you never totally expunge from your mind the subconscious.
No.
You never get rid of, you're just always having to put more positive on top of the negative thoughts that periodically come up, such as, I don't know that I'm good enough to do. And do you, I'm not sure that it's the right term, fight that, but I mean, it sounds as if you're saying those feelings do come up every once in a while, and you fight that, you beat that thought down, whatever the term, with positivity. Am I inaccurately describing?
I look at it this way, Ron, is I have to assess, okay, and understand that those thoughts and feelings are there, okay, and that these past subconscious limiting beliefs are coming up. But do they do me any good if I live in those thoughts and feelings for any length of time? And that's where most people struggle with facing any adversity or challenge in their life. They get stuck in the mindset that that's the way it's going to be. Okay. All growth comes from our past failures and our past experiences. Okay. So no matter what that adversity or challenge is that somebody's going through, there's a learning experience. When my wife was diagnosed, I was getting my mental performance certification with Dave Austin, gentleman out of California. And I called him up and told him I couldn't continue. I was quitting my job. My number one priority was to take care of my wife. This is 3 years or 2.5 years after we had just gone through our second bankruptcy because of 2008. We lost a very heavy 6 figures. Okay. So I am now faced with, as Napoleon Hill talks about, we had just gone through the poverty, and we are dealing with 4 other fears: ill health, loss of a loved one, old age, and death. And my coach says to me, he said, Jeff, you need this now more than you will ever need it in your life. You are facing probably the biggest adversity you will ever face. The first call I had with him less than 2 weeks later was very first thing he said to me: there's a blessing in your wife's cancer. So I will pass this on. No matter what adversity we face in our life, there's a blessing in it. Okay. And fast forward 9 months later, Well, I'm in the hospital with my wife. She had just had her liver resection done. She had over 20 tumors in her liver, in addition to the tumor that they took out and when they resectioned her colon. Okay. We're in the hospital and I get a call from my youngest stepdaughter. She was 34 at the time. She says, "Are you in the room with mom?" And I said, "Yes." She says, "Please step out." And I knew she had had her colonoscopy about a week to 10 days later. And I said, "What's up?" She says, "I got my pathology report back. My polyps all carry the cancer gene." She was 24 years old. Okay. Less than, I think it was about 3 weeks later, my wife and I had one son together. Okay. He was 24 years old. So it took me months going through the fight with the insurance company for them to pay for a 24-year-old to get a colonoscopy. It was because of my family history, my near determination of cancer at 28, that our doctor was finally able to get my son in for a colonoscopy. This is like 3 weeks after my stepdaughter told us her close call. We got our son's pathology report, exact same thing. We just found the blessing from my wife's cancer.
Let me ask you at this point, Jeff, I'm supposing you went through some sort of a mental transformation, and I don't know that that's a term you would use, but yet how I'm processing what you're saying, you had a lot of negative things happen to you in your upbringing, and there was a point at which you may have thought, well, you acknowledge, I don't know what I'm worth, and I don't know that I have any value. You use the term imposter syndrome. It sounds as if now that you are able to think everything in life has a purpose, we can make some kind of something good out of something bad. What was it? Was it your mental performance coach? What was it that was the turning point? If you can think back to that point, and that may have been a process of 5-10 years or something.
It was a process from my son being 7 to the time my wife got cancer. Okay. And I really understand it now more that I got my medical certification with Ben Newman, because Ben talks about it, finding your burn. Okay. And your burn is deeper than your why or purpose. It's really that driving internal force that is a fire that ignites you no matter what. Okay. So I'll take you back to that time when after that second bankruptcy. Okay. And I don't have time to get into the whole story, but in short, my son said to me one day, he said, "Dad, you're never home and we don't have any money." Okay. I went back on the road that week doing commercial construction. And that statement for my son burnt me bad that week. Okay. All those thoughts of looking back at my childhood when my dad wasn't there, when my dad walked out on me, when my dad had his nervous breakdown. Well, guess what? I was fighting depression because of the bankruptcy. I didn't feel worthy. Okay. We went from a huge custom home, being a custom home builder, okay, to a small little ranch. Okay. And so those things were knocking me down mentally. Okay. And it was starting to affect my health. It was definitely a big, big problem with my relationship with my wife. We were headed for divorce. We had talked about going to the attorneys. And when my son said that to me, That week I went away, and thank God I had a very good boss at the time, very family oriented. I called him up, told him what went on, and he said, Jeff, you need to hire somebody to help you. And I don't care what it costs because I'm not going to lose you. I was good at doing my job. Okay. But I had to look in the mirror because the problem was not my son. The problem was not my wife. The problem was me. What was I doing? I was following and modeling the exact same thing I learned from my dad. And what was happening? I was doing the same shit that I didn't like to my son. So I had to make a huge change and shift. And I got home that Friday night after our son went to bed. My wife and I had a very serious conversation. And I acknowledged and I had to confess I was messing up. I was a lousy dad. I was being a lousy husband. I had to change. But it took my son raising my level of awareness that there was something wrong. So when you go through adversity, we get stuck in the woods. We get trapped in that environment. And sometimes all you have to do is get outside of the problem. So how did I get outside the problem? What did I have to do? I had to change. Okay. So I changed my whole belief system, my value system. Okay. This led to my wife and I getting deep into personal development together. I'd been to some of Tony Robbins events before that and all. And we got my son into racing go-karts for two reasons. To spend time together as a family. That was based solely on me changing the value of what was most important to me. It wasn't my workaholic addiction to a job. My family was going to be number one. And we got into racing, my son racing go-karts, for him to learn respect. Because when the masculinity was out of the house, guess what he was doing? He was lashing out. No authority. Kids will manipulate. He was no different than any other kid. My wife worked in the school district, worked with kids her whole life. So when we sat back and put ourselves out of the situation and looked at it from another set of glasses, okay, took the rose-colored glasses off, okay, as Ziegler would say, and looked at it through somebody else's perception, the picture changes. That's the problem that people get stuck with in adversity. They stay stuck in the problem. Okay. So my fire was now created because my family was now most important, where my modeling was coming. My dad was a workaholic. The most important thing to him was his job, and it drove him over the edge. So I wasn't going to let that happen. Now, fast forward, okay, I went through another time when my wife got cancer. I quit my job. My job was not going to be number one. Taking care of her. When somebody gets diagnosed stage 4 cancer, doesn't matter what the cancer is, stage 4 is a life sentence. It's terminal. Being that I was so close to it, I knew that was my number one focus. That was my burn, to take care of her. Then when we found the blessing of why she got cancer, we used other mindset tips and tools, okay, to help go through that. Okay. But her burn was she will fight this disease in her 60s, knowing that her son in his 20s and daughter in her 30s wouldn't fight the same disease, because she had seen and made friends with 3 younger women the first couple of months we were at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Treatment Center in New York City that were in their 30s and 40s, and they all passed away before her.
Here's how I'm processing what you're saying, Jeff. Your son made a statement that inspired you, the burn, and that caused you to take a mental break, so to speak. And you, in essence, said, I will be a chain breaker. And I'm putting that in the context that I'm not going to continue the way I was raised and the thoughts I have of it and so forth. I am not going to carry that forward. And with your mental, I use the term transformation, that inspired your wife to say, I'll do whatever it takes to fight this cancer. But there's something good even in the adversity that we're facing. Let's focus on the positive part of this and move forward. I don't want to mischaracterize anything, Jeff, but that's how I'm perceiving what you're saying.
Yeah, I've learned that no matter what the problem, challenge, or adversity is, it's there for us to grow. As my coach told me, there's a blessing in it. Okay. Now, during those times that I sat in a cancer treatment center with my wife, she spent 185 days, 184 days in the hospital. Okay. I did some serious analysis. Okay. One of my coaches, coaching to me is very, very important. You should all have a coach or two. Okay. And I was given this exercise, and I use this same thing with everybody else. Go back in your life and look at something that you overcome, something that you didn't think you could do, that you ended up doing, and you list them and write them out. Where were you before, and what was the outcome after? And I challenge everybody to do that. And some people, you need to get out of your environment because you're stuck in your environment. Our environment can be advantageous, but it can be extremely disadvantageous to where we are going in the future. Okay. So get out in nature, go for a walk, go by the water, go up in the mountains, wherever you find peace and tranquility, and go back to your childhood and think about something that you accomplished that the week, day, week, month, or year before you could not do. It may start off your first memory being a child, okay? And it could be, when we were all infants, we crawled. And we would see our parents, we would see our siblings, we would see others walking. That was a adversity, the first adversity that we probably faced. But guess what? We would struggle and fight to reach up to the chair, to the couch, to something. And we would fall down over and over and over again. We're building resiliency in those early days in our life. Because what happens? We did not stop. We did not quit. And when you continue to do that, then you're able to walk. And then it goes from walking to running to riding a bike, so on and so forth. And you go through your life and you find all those things. It may be when you're in high school, asking the first girl out on a date. It may be that serious relationship.
Let me ask you about coaching. And did you instinctively know you needed a coach? Did this person I'm going to say some people would say just by happenstance appear in your life. And what I'm leading up to is how would a person know they need a coach?
Well, it's just like needing a doctor. Okay. We go to a doctor to have somebody that can give us some insight into something that we don't know about or see. We do not know what we do not know. Okay. So a coach, a good coach, will get you to open and raise your level of awareness of what adversity you may be going through, what challenges you may have, to get you to see that there's another perception or perspective to look at that. They will get you to open up your level of awareness to go from being stuck into a problem to overcoming the problem. There is hope to get through anything in our life. Yes, you may need a little faith, but everything in life started right here. So if you're going to overcome anything in life, this is where you got to go first.
And Jeff, for the person who may be experiencing right now what you have experienced, and they're saying, well, maybe I need a coach. You have a business, I believe. You are a certified mental performance coach. Do you reach out and, based on, I'm going to say, leverage your background, your past, such that you know exactly how to help a person with mental performance so that they can mentally overcome whatever it is, whatever adversity they're facing?
Yes, I do. But on top of that is my burn now at my age, being 68, is to help others, okay, through what I have learned through my adversity and challenges in life, whether it's personal or business, okay? I've been in business management, business ownership for years, so I understand, especially business and construction, but all small businesses kind of work the same way. But personally, okay, I have been through a lot of challenge. I have spent since 1992, my first bankruptcy is when I got involved in listening to Tony Robbins. Okay. It was through his strategic intervention course that I got exposed to really my first coaching experience. Okay. And I learned enough tips and tools through the last 30, 40 years that I have assembled my own frameworks. I have a ladder of success framework for my first book I wrote, Building Champions, which is more geared around kids and sports. During my wife's cancer, I developed a simple ABC framework. And I have shared aspects of it during our conversation, but I'll highlight it here for people to look at whatever they may be facing it this way. The first A is awareness. You have to raise your level of awareness of what is really going on. Is that problem inside of you that you can control? Or is it a problem, condition, or situation that's outside of you that's not in your control, but you're letting it internally affect you? Okay. So raise your level of awareness to really what is the problem. And sometimes it takes that outside person, whether it's a coach, a friend, a mentor, a pastor, could be anybody, to look at it through another set of glasses. Okay. The other A, because I call it ABC squared or 2.0, is attitude. Okay. What is attitude but our thoughts and feelings? Those thoughts and feelings come up, and as I mentioned earlier, it brings up a past experience where you've created in subconscious mind a belief about that. Okay? Your attitude is expressed through your actions. Your actions are what's getting your results in your life. And this leads to the B's, is your beliefs. What is truly that belief system? Is there a limiting belief that's holding you back? Because for most people, and I've been there are limiting beliefs that we all struggle with. You have to raise your level of awareness of what that is. That is, again, going back to your level of awareness. Is it a situation, condition inside of you or outside of your control? The other B is your behavior. That is basically the actions and the results that you're getting expressed from your attitude, from what your thoughts and feelings are. And there's really 3 C's, okay? We all have choices. What are those choices? Are you making the right choices? Choosing the right choices? But here's the big point. 99% of the time, there's something you have to change. And most people don't like change. Why? Because it puts you outside of your comfort zone. All growth is outside your comfort zone. All adversity is overcome by getting outside of your comfort zone. You will not accomplish the difficult things in your life when you stay in your comfort zone. Because we as humans are meant to feel safe and secure. To overcome it, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You have to change. Now, we were brought into this earth as humans to create anything we want in life. That's the final C. So what are you creating? Are you going to stick in the challenge and adversity that you're facing? Do you want to overcome it with faith, hope, resiliency, courage, determination, discipline, and create a new life for yourself? But you have to decide what you want. If you don't know what you want, you won't ever get there.
Do you actively coach people on, I'm going to use the acrostic, the AA, B, double C method?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I mean, that is a huge aspect of my coaching now, because I connect it. I want people to raise their awareness to what are their standards over their feelings. What is the burn that they have inside themselves? In my ladder of success, in my book for kids, it relates to adults too. A ladder can lean against the building, and if one of those rungs is broke, you can still climb that ladder. But those guide rails, those side rails of that ladder, that's leaning against the building. If one of those guide rails is broke, that ladder is going down. I wrote that book about 18 years ago. Okay. And it came from experience, David versus Goliath. I know we don't have time to get into my David versus Goliath story, but through that assessment of my experiences from my childhood, my experiences with my son and everything, at the time I was writing the book, I looked at what are those guide rails of our life? And I've repeatedly today have talked about your beliefs. So beliefs are one of the guide rails. The other one, your values, which is basically the standards that you're going to live your life by. So if your beliefs and your values aren't tied together and connected, you're going to fight adversity with a harder resistance from your internal belief system and your internal mindset of what you're capable of.
For the listener who resonates with everything you're saying, they may be thinking something like, I'm going through a lot of what Jeff has experienced. How would the person contact you, Jeff? And do you work virtually, or how would you help coach a person?
Yeah, I do everything virtually for the most part. I am one on authenticity. Okay. So I'm not afraid to hide anything. So real transparent, the best and easiest way to get me is my direct cell phone. I'm not overly huge on technology. Yes, I can do Zoom and do those calls and and all, but if somebody's facing a problem and wants to overcome something, I want to be there as soon as they need a help. So my phone number is 607-727-6362. And I have had these calls where by the time the call's over, my phone is run. I had a gentleman I was on a call with, and he called me because his father had passed away and his mother was stuck in grief. What's grief? Grief is a negative emotion. What do you do when you sit in a negative emotion? You get depressed. Life is worth living. Enjoy it. Embrace the journey, no matter what that journey is. Embrace the adversity. You're growing as you go through it.
Well, Jeff, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for leveraging your past and better overcoming your past, because I can just envision how low you may have thought of yourself sometime earlier in life. You have overcome that, and you've lived the life experience where you can help others overcome whatever thought processes, limiting beliefs they're having, and you can help them become the very best person God intended them to be. Jeff, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for sharing, and I want to encourage our listeners to contact you to have you coach them over whatever they're experiencing to be the very best person they can be.
Well, I appreciate it and look forward to helping anybody I can. It's not always about the money. I just my burn is now not to see people struggle without some tips and tools to get through it. Yes, they still have to learn. Yes, you still have to go through it. There's a reason God has placed that before you for you to grow, to get through it, because there's something bigger. And that hit me real hard when my wife was diagnosed and passed.
And I'm processing what you're saying is, when we have the burn to be a chain breaker, when we are connected with the right people, we will become a chain breaker and overcome.
Exactly.
Jeff, thank you very much. We look forward to continuing our dialogue and working with you so that we can help others become their very best person.
Well, I appreciate it. And anything I can do for you too and any of your listeners, I'm here to help.
Sounds great, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain higher retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.